Welcome, everybody, to Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. I'm one half of your host, Santi, and I'm here with Steve. Nice sweater.
You know what? I figured we should get festive. So I went out and we got some WWE festive sweaters. Again, my credit card burns that something John Cena ended up on it, but Merry Christmas, buddy. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. I was so excited when I got this. This is like the best gift ever. Honestly, like an ugly John Cena Christmas sweater. Are you kidding me? Like, can this be more me? I don't think so.
More aggressively obnoxious? No, absolutely not. But Santi, welcome back, buddy. I'm glad to have you back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been out of commission for quite a while. First, it was PC problems, and then I got, I don't know, the plague, it seems. I was out cold for almost 2 weeks, honestly. But yeah, we're back, honestly, with big enough news where I'm like, okay, like we need to get on the mic and talk about this because, oh, I'm scared. There are reports that the majority shareholder of the WWE, and I think that's a very important distinction to make because he is still the majority shareholder of the WWE, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And I'm using the full name Vincent Kennedy McMahon to not confuse him with the on-screen character of Mr. McMahon, because we are talking purely business here. Vince McMahon is looking at coming back to the WWE as CEO and as head of creative, thus bumping down Stephanie McMahon and Triple H from their current roles, and that scares the living crap out of me. Now, before we really go into this, a couple of things that I want to preface. This conversation is, I would ideally wanted to keep it to how this impacts WWE and WWE television, because there is a lot of legal shit happening here that Steve and I are just nowhere near well equipped to be able to really give proper opinions on. There's allegations of sexual assault, rape in a limousine, allegations that just go far deeper than what we would really want to talk about because we're a wrestling podcast. Steve, you want to jump in?
Yeah, let's Santi, I think we should just keep this to the phenomenal past 3.5, 4 months that we've had with Vince stepping down and seeing the turn in creative, the amazing returns, the pay-per-views, the shows that we've been having, the overall great content that across WWE programming and social media that we've been getting from the performers, the producers, and the creative staff. I think we just need to keep this conversation to how this will potentially affect that. I think we need to avoid legal until more comes out. As much as we want to talk about this Wall Street Journal, ad or report that came out recently, as much as we want to talk about all the allegations and how potentially shitty of a person Vince McMahon is, let's just keep this to us being a pro wrestling podcast and trying to talk about, oh fuck, are we about to see a bunch of releases? Because that's one of my biggest concerns.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to note is the current state of the WWE is a state where it was completely ripped apart, right? Like, I guess what I mean by that, what Vince McMahon left and what he's coming back to are completely different things. All the storylines that Vince McMahon started have been completely torn apart. All the wrestlers that he released have been brought back. Wrestlers that he had pushed to the moon are now being brought back down to reality, a la Austin Theory. So there is a lot of change that I think, for the most part, I would say 98% of it has been for the good. There are guys that are just right now crushing the scene that under Vince McMahon were just completely oppressed. The likes of Gunther, Bobby Lashley. Even though Bobby Lashley was a champion under Vince McMahon, I still feel like he is just leaps and bounds ahead of where he was before. And I think the list can go on and on and on and on and on. And as much as I have respect for Vince McMahon as a booker and as what he's done to grow professional wrestling, I want to be really careful with my wording because I don't want what I'm saying here to be turned around and used against me 6 months from now if really shitty things come out from this Vince McMahon investigation. But there is no denying that, he created the sport that we know and love today. but I don't want him near this product anymore. I think it's better that he's gone. It really, it's been better. It's been better.
So, Santi, just to give you like a stat, it was funny because a friend of mine, actually a mutual friend of ours that we met the other week at an event that you and I both attended, sent me a graph of what WWE was at January 2022 to December of 2022. And they were flat at 0 in the stock ratings. And they are now up 60% at the end of the year. And this came off of like the New York Stock Exchange. You look at the other people that are on this list: Comcast, Disney, Paramount Plus, and Warner Brothers, who are all plummeting. And WWE is one of the only ones going up and at a high rate. And this is one of those ones where you sit there, their stock price is booming because of the last 4 months of what they've been doing. This isn't the network for $9.99 anymore. This is not going over to Saudi Arabia all the time. This is just good booking and people caring like you and I, wanting to wait for 8:00 Eastern Standard Time to sit down and watch 3 hours of Monday Night Raw and be like, damn, that was a great fucking episode. Going on to Friday Night SmackDown and being like, damn, that was a great 2 hours of SmackDown. I can't wait for the next episode. It's back to where it was when we were younger. And if I have a feeling if Vince comes back, it's going to be like the proverbial hand in the cookie jar. And it's just going to be like that toxic hand in the cookie jar. And we don't need that. Just accept that your product isn't what we want anymore. We need that edgier product, but we also need a product of the now. And working with social media, like look at all the stuff they've done to build a Monday Night Raw just off of Instagram stories and Twitter posts to help build what's about to happen. Like Elias getting jumped by the Bloodline the other week. This is quality content a la Attitude Era. Granted, Vince did it, but Hunter's doing it better. You know, so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, you talked a lot about the stock price and whatnot. And I started off this podcast by mentioning how he is still the majority shareholder. Yes, we're talking about a public company. For those that don't know, public companies will always have what's called a board of directors. And the board of directors ultimately makes the big picture decisions while the CEO makes the day-to-day decisions of the company. The CEO is the most powerful person in a publicly traded company, but the board of directors, they have power over the CEO in the sense that they can oust the CEO with a vote of no confidence, which is where I believe where things were going to go had Vince not stepped down and retired himself. I do believe that they were going to go the route of a vote of no confidence. From everything that Vince is saying, he is saying that he got bad advice. He was told, the best thing to do was to walk away, to retire. And he feels like it was bad advice and that had he just stayed, that it would have blown over. And, AEW was definitely helping with things like Brawl Out and all that stuff. So maybe it's possible that things would have blown over. But the thing is with him being the majority shareholder, I don't know how that works in terms of that dynamic with him and the board of directors. Can he literally just be like, I'm back, I'm the CEO, I'm the majority shareholder, you can't say no? I don't know.
There's genuinely don't know. There's got to be some legalities to that. And we did hear that not Tony Khan,
Nick Khan.
What's his name? Nick Khan and Stephanie were put into a co-CEO position once Vince stepped down. I don't think you can step down from a company, even if you are the majority shareholder, and then say, you know what, I'm coming back and you're both fired, because you don't have those abilities anymore. I don't believe so.
Yeah.
That would be like Walt Disney coming back to life and kicking out the CEO of Disney because, I'm alive again, I want my job back. I don't think that's possible. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, this is just way over our head, the legal side of this. That's why we didn't really want to get too much into this. But what I will say, I think that we were naive and dumb to think that Vince was going to go out quietly, because I believe that the initial intent of Vince McMahon, and we saw it on TV, was for him to play the defiant, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not fucking leaving, a la Wolf of Wall Street, because he came out for like 4 consecutive weeks at the start of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown saying, oh, we're still a family, we're one, WWE forever, now and always, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I believe that his original intent was to be defiant and not leave, be stubborn, I'm staying here. And, you know, he took whatever he feels like it was bad advice and now wants to come back. I think we were dumb to think that this was blown over and that this was the last we were going to hear of Vince McMahon.
See, I always thought that it would blow over and then Vince would still have like the proverbial puppet strings being played in the background saying, okay, Hunter, you can do this, but you can't go this far type thing. And like kind of just being that whisper in the ear. But after the second and third allegation came out of how many payoffs he had been doing and how many women this was happening with, it really, like, I thought they were gonna storyline this. When he came out and said, oh, WWE then, now, forever together, I thought Stephanie's music was going to hit and like Paul and Stephanie were going to come out and be like, listen, Vince, like, we understand that you want to stick around, and they were going to play this storyline and almost like the limousine explosion back in the early 2000s. I thought they were going to try and play it off like this and write him out. But then all the rest of the allegations started to come out and you're like, oh, okay, like and then the step down happened. Now with all the other allegations that have apparently just popped out of nowhere, which we need to see how real they are. They can't let him back. They can't. It's just kind of like the Riddle situation right now, which we won't get into, but probably another video we could do. But we can't. They cannot let Vince in because it is going to be apparently Ryan Satin has talked to about 15 WWE employees since this information has come out. And all 15 has said, we don't want Vince back. That says something about morale in the company. If this man was able to carry the company for 40 or 50 years like he did, and now he's gone and people are happier, stock numbers are up, performances are better, crowd numbers are higher. If the board of directors doesn't say, dude, you just stay away. Yeah. Take your money and relax and enjoy the show for once. Because if he comes back, Santi, I'm terrified.
100%. I'm with you. I saw somebody try to compare this with like Steve Jobs came back to Apple, because there's a story of Steve Jobs was fired from Apple and then came back, was the CEO, blah, blah. This is completely different because the WWE is doing super well, as opposed to when Apple was doing super terribly. And then you put in Steve Jobs, he brings it up. Totally different. He can't even begin to compare the two situations because putting Vince McMahon into this position actively puts the WWE at risk. First of all, in terms of bad publicity, bad press, which hurts the stock, and two, like, it's not broken. It's working. Like, it is working. Whatever is happening in the WWE is working. I'm loving WWE television. I'm absolutely in love with WWE television. Everything that they're doing. NXT is back to being fucking awesome. All right. Monday Night Raw is watchable. Still too long in my opinion, but watchable. Friday Night SmackDown is the best wrestling show period across the board. Better than Dynamite, better than anything that's going on in TNA and New Japan. Friday Night SmackDown is the premier show on in professional wrestling. And if Vince McMahon comes back, I am concerned that all of that will be undone. I am concerned that storylines are going to be changed and made terrible. I am concerned that talent that is blossoming is going to be released, is going to get buried. I'm concerned that NXT is going to go back to being a college athlete tryout center. I am concerned that the likes of Gunther are going to be like, why the fuck would I stay here, right? Like, we need to remember AEW is stacked with talent that WWE released and talent that didn't want to re-sign with the WWE because of the shit booking from Vince.
Yeah.
Adam Cole being an excellent example. Daniel Bryan being another excellent example. Moxley being a great example. Jericho not wanting to come back. Like that's crazy to me. And all of this is the bad work that was happening under Vince McMahon. I think it would be unfair to say that it's all Vince McMahon, because we got to remember that there's other bad apples that have left, like John Laurinaitis, right? So I'm concerned that all of the goodwill that WWE has built over since SummerSlam is going to be all completely undone to serve the ego of this man, because there is no reason why a 77-year-old man would want to come out of retirement. There is no reason. There is actually no reason. It's not money, because he's making it literally sitting there.
He's making more now that he's gone.
He's literally just raking it in. So it's not money, right?
It's ego.
It's ego. It's purely ego.
100% ego. Santi, I'm looking at this right now. I'm sitting here looking at my screen while we're chatting. And since SummerSlam, like you said, and you and I have talked business on other podcast before, and a good business, when their stock goes up, it goes like this. It's a trajectory of rolls that go up and up. The only time we have seen a plummet is in the last 4 days.
Yeah.
The last 4 days of the last 5 months, and I'm looking at it right now, it has plummeted $11 in stock value since all this has come out.
Yeah, that's more than 10% just from the notion, the idea that Vince McMahon is going to get his grimy little hands on this.
Are we going to get, if Vince McMahon comes back, Karrion Kross dressed as a porn star again?
I mean, like, come on. If I was Karrion Kross, I would want to leave. Like, I would just want to leave.
Oh, I would gone.
There is precedent for existing superstars on the roster that have been treated poorly. Forget Sasha Banks coming back. Forget it. Yep. Absolutely forget it. It's just not going to happen. And even though, even if there is talent that stays, there isn't a mass voluntary exodus. I just don't see a lot of people voluntarily leaving. But like, let's say that they're like, people stay on board. It's still bad, man. Like, morale, like you mentioned, is going to be low. Like, we have, dude, the biggest superstar right now in the WWE is somebody that Vince McMahon has done nothing with over the last 10 years, and that's Sami Zayn. You really think that this thing that we're getting with Sami Zayn, the best thing in professional wrestling in the last 5 years, dare I say the last good thing in wrestling, like thing that everyone is behind since the yes movement of Daniel Bryan, the yes movement of Daniel Bryan wasn't Vince McMahon. That was the fans. That was accident. All right.
And here's the funniest part. You take away the bloodline. So what Sammy and the Usos and Roman are doing, the top 3 right now in WWE that are getting the best reactions are Bray Wyatt, Kevin Owens, and my apologies, Damage Control, which are all no thanks to Vince. Kevin Owens was lackluster, and now he's just free to do whatever he wants. Bray is arguably the most anticipated spot on the show. Everybody just clings to it. And Damage Control, as much as they've been floundering, they are still involved in everything. And they are doing really well for the women's division because Ronda Rousey's not carrying it. And that was a Vince McMahon hire. And even though she's holding the title, nobody cares. Nobody cares right now. And even Bianca is starting to flounder as well. And I was actually getting behind Bianca after Survivor Series because she actually showed something different, So I'm very worried, Santi, because everything that you and I for the last year, we have been screaming for, we're finally getting in WWE. If Vince McMahon comes back, if the morale drops in the locker room, there's a big problem. And I don't know if I want to watch a Vince McMahon product again.
It's not that I don't know. I do not want to watch another Vince McMahon product. It's one of those situations where I didn't realize I was in a toxic relationship. I didn't realize I was in a toxic relationship until that relationship ended. And I finally found a nice, loving, caring new girlfriend / wife to take that is showing me what true love is, what being in a good, healthy relationship is. And now the thought of going back to toxic ass Vince McMahon makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is from somebody who, I am not saying this from the allegations because I'm a true believer of innocent until proven guilty. We will let that play out. The court of public opinion will take its toll. It will absolutely make its decisions. Legal battles will happen. We will make those decisions once we have the true proper information. This is all coming from just purely a wrestling point of view. I do not want a Vince McMahon product. I don't. I know what the Vince McMahon product, I know what the Vince McMahon formula is. It doesn't work anymore. And we have had an influx of casual fans start to watch wrestling more. We have had an influx of new fans in general that have never seen WWE before. We have had an influx of old fans who were tired of the product come back. We've had an influx of fans switch television from AEW back to WWE.
Yep. And it's funny because we also look at, when it comes to the social media side of things and the celebrity status side of things, we see it more in pop culture now. WWE coming back. Remember how it was in the 90s? It was all WWE magazines on the magazines newsstands. It was WWE in the newspapers. Like, how good was WrestleMania? And it was in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Washington Post and all those things. And now WWE is popping up on social media platforms that have nothing to do with WWE, because these now wrestling celebrities are branching out and being allowed to do other things and drawing the public back to their product. You know, they're being allowed to use their Twitch channels. They're being allowed to do more brand opportunities and move into movies. How Becky was in a Marvel movie, even though she didn't make it, she was asked because of what she's doing in wrestling. You know, her persona, her demeanor. Granted, The Rock helped start that, but now we're seeing more opportunity across all these platforms. I have seen more wrestlers on talk shows in the last 5 months than I have since the late 90s. And it's so good to see. It's like, oh, look, Roman Reigns is now the new face of hair product. I think it's Head and Shoulders. Like, this is cool that we're seeing what we love outside of wrestling. And I don't think any of this would have happened to this level with the Vince category, because he was so protective of his product and his brand.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and you know, you're talking about established stars. Let's talk about NXT right now. Let's talk about what they're doing. And if you don't watch NXT, you should. NXT is back to being awesome. All right. But if you want to see the glow up of the year, if you think Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown have been better, they have, but they like the level of improvement doesn't even come close to the level of improvement over in NXT. Not even close. All right. The young talent is having match of the year candidates. We are having fans clamor and beg for main roster call-ups. People are pumped for the Royal Rumble. His Toxic Attraction going to be there. Braun Breaker, Waller. You know, there's so many names that fans want to see progress in and have bigger marquee matches on the main roster. And what's funny, Steve, is that a lot of these names were the same people that were over in NXT 2.0 under Vince McMahon, and no one gave a shit. No one gave a shit. There's not new people in NXT. It's the same people. Triple H has just taken the same people that were part of NXT 2.0 and created a fantastic third brand for the WWE. If that isn't proof that the Vince McMahon grimy little hands of toxicity aren't actively hurting the business, I don't know what is. NXT is the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's the crossover stuff as well. It's bringing top talent from the main roster down to NXT and helping them put over storylines. Look at the New Day.
New Day are champions.
New Day are NXT champions, Triple Crown champions for the tag titles. And I'm okay with it because it's not burying young talent. It's just giving young talent opportunity to work with two of the best to do it in the tag division. And you also have, like you said, people clamoring for this young talent to come up to the main roster. We got a show of it for Gable Stevenson, who's not even in NXT really. He's just still in the Performance Center in the PC. And he did great in that little segment on Raw a couple of weeks ago. It was awesome. And SmackDown, I'm all for it. So, and then we've somehow, miraculously, Triple H has been able to pull Regal back, and he's going to be a VP of talent. Okay, it just gets better. Why does Vince want to ruin something that's not broken?
Ego. We already answered that question. It's ego. It literally is. And I think, NXT is just such a good example of like what can be done when you remove Vince McMahon from the equation. Because, you can make the argument that, the main roster, they were always going to flourish, right? Like the talent is there. It might not be Triple H. It might just be the talent being given more of an opportunity to do their job. And, you take them away from the reins of Vince McMahon, that they would have flourished. NXT actually proves that it is actively Triple H making WWE better. Mm-hmm. It is Triple H making the product better, because when you have a developmental brand, if you don't have the right person guiding these people, it's going to flounder. But yeah, and we saw it flounder. I think NXT 2.0 is unanimously a giant failure across the board with wrestling fans. But with Triple H under the helm, like it is honestly must watch television. I think it rivals I think it's one of the best shows on like wrestling in general right now. I think it rivals Dynamite in terms of match quality, not in terms of maybe name prowess, but that's all Triple H. It's all Triple H. It really is. It really genuinely is all Triple H. I don't want to see Vince McMahon. I think we can leave it at that. I think you and I, we are, again, not knowing the results of these allegations. We love Vince McMahon and what he's done for the product and what he's done for wrestling over the last 30 years. But it's time to move on. And it's time for us to enjoy the product that we have been enjoying over the last 6 months for the next 20 years. Like, this is what we want moving forward. Absolutely. I cannot segue out of that any better. I completely agree with you. And I really hope that this last 4.5 months has not been a sweet little dream that we're going to have to wake up from and wake up into the nightmare, because it's just, I don't think I would want to be involved in it. Yeah. And I've actually gotten very depressed just talking about this now and thinking about the possibility of it happening. I have not wanted to go to so many wrestling events live after being spoiled with Toronto that we got to it. Toronto show was amazing. Going to Clash and even some of the house shows that we've been to recently, like, it's just so good. Yeah. And I'm just so heavily invested in the future. I don't know if it would be worth it, Steve, did you ever in elementary school have a teacher that you didn't like take a long leave of absence and you got an awesome substitute teacher? Oh yeah. This is it, man. This is it. It's this situation where now you're dreading that teacher coming back. Yeah. And it's going to suck. It's going to suck. Yeah. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. Steve, where can the people find you? Guys, you can find me on TikTok, Mr. Tashk. It's changed up a little bit, but just wait. Twitter, Mr. Tashk, and YouTube, Mr. Tashk. Santi, what about you? All I'm going to pimp out right now is the YouTube. Go check out my YouTube page, Mr. Santi's app. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers there. We've posted a few videos. It's doing really well, and I'd like you to go check it out. It's more wrestling content in case you're curious. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Have a wonderful hey, if you're watching this, towards the holidays, have a happy Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever the hell it is that you celebrate. I really don't give a shit. Enjoy your time. Cheers.
Take care, guys.